Hey everyone, it's Nikki. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the various journals and planners I'm going to be using this year to try and get my life a little bit in order. So let's start. Okay, so that giant stack of a billion different size journals is a little bit of clickbait, but I'll get into how I'm going to be using all of those various notebooks this year. But my primary system is going to be consisting of these three, soon to be just these two, or even really just this one journal / planner. So last year I used the Kokyo Jibun Techo Lite as my primary planner. It is a combination of monthly spreads with some checklists and space for like Gantt charts or habit trackers on the bottom, and then vertical weekly spreads, all 52 weeks plus a couple extra, and then a couple different note pages in the back, and a couple lists and other stuff at the beginning. So this was my primary planner. I really wanted to try it out because it seemed aligned with what I'm interested in. Basically, my dream planner was the Hobonichi Techo Cousin, which has the monthly spreads, weekly spreads, but then dated daily spreads in the back. And my problem with that is, I wanted it in a B6 size, which this is B6 Slim, and then this is B6 regular. I'll get into that in a second. And B, I wanted blank pages in the back, more similar to the Hobonichi Techo Day Free, because I come from a background of bullet journaling, which I'll get to in a second with this one. But I know for me, some days I write like 3 things down, like just literally do this, this, and this, and then the date, and that's all I write. And other days I love to write basically just like journaling for pages and pages and pages. And if every single page is dedicated to one day, some pages I would be like it would be just like a waste of space. You know, I'd be writing 3 things down and then, oh, there's my day. And in other days I wouldn't have enough space to write what I want to write, and I'd have to either go into another journal or just figure something else out. So in order to combat that, I wanted to try the Jibun Techo, and then instead of having the blank pages in the back of the planner, I used my A5 Dingbats bullet journal that I got a while ago as kind of a daily planner, and it's where I keep all my bullet journal collections and just random journaling and writing stuff down. So that was what I used last year. However, I found that having 2 separate journals, like a separate bullet journal and a separate planner, didn't really do what I liked. I think I'm more of an all-in-one planner person, which the previous year in 2024, I had tried that out with the Sterling Ink Common Planner, because the Sterling Ink Common Planner is basically exactly what I just talked about my ideal planner being. Monthly spreads, vertical weekly spreads, and then blank pages in the back. And so in 2024, I got this half-year planner from July to December, and then I also got this half-year, this is the A6 size, and I also got this undated planner because my thought process was, I want to try the A6, because as much as I like the A5, having something a little bit more compact seemed like it would be useful and versatile, but in case I really hated the A5, I also got this undated planner as like a backup. Well, I liked the A5 a lot and I used it and I filled it out, but the problem with the A5, and this is the same problem with I think kind of with the A6, I think the problem with any A6 vertical weekly is that it's just too small unless you have a like really teeny tiny grid to have a full 24-hour day, or even this is just 6 to midnight, but a full day with half hours. And see how there's like a lot of space at the bottom for stuff, but then you don't have every half hour. And I just, due to my work schedule, I have a lot of things starting on the half hour or even quarter hour. So this was a little bit kind of, I didn't really like that aspect of it, but I used it and I really like the Tomoe River paper. I like it a little bit more, I think, than is it the Mio paper that's used in the Jibun Techo? I don't remember, but I like the Tomoe River paper a little bit better. I use fountain pens. I love fountain pens. My only beef with the Tomoe River paper is that since it's so thin, it's not very absorbent, which means that the ink takes a long time to dry. So I have to realize that I can't really write for pages and pages and pages because I need to wait for my fountain pen ink to dry. So anyway, I love the A6, but I wanted to try the B6 size, and I also wanted to try the Jibun Techo, so last year that's what I did. However, I think this year I am going to be going back to the common planner. So this, like I said earlier, I got it in 2024 just in case as a backup. So it's undated, and this is also 6 months. I happened to be trying out this system in the middle of the year last year, so that's why I got the 6-month versions. Also, I think it's nice to get a 6-month planner in case you are unsure of committing, but not a lot of brands offer 6 months. I know Hobonichi also has their Avec planners, which that's another one that I was thinking about trying. But again, the Avec, it's either A6 without the weekly spreads, which is just the regular Hobonichi, and you can buy the little weekly insert, but it has the kind of the same problem as the Sterling Ink A6, and that there's no half-hour demarcations, or the A5, which is, I love A5 journals. I've had like 5 the last couple years. I think it's great for a bullet journal, but for a planner that I'm taking with me on the go everywhere, it's a little bit too unwieldy. So the B6 size kind of is like my dream come true because it's got half hours from 6 to 12 and not a bunch of space at the bottom, which the Jibun Techo, my other issue with it is that it has a really tiny grid. It's got a 3mm grid, which I have small handwriting, but I did find myself having to use really specifically just my extra fine and fine fountain pens and my like 0.5mm and smaller pens, which I have a fair amount of them, but it kind of limited the amount of pens I could use, which is a bit of a bummer because this grid is just so teeny tiny. And also, you can see kind of similar to the Sterling Ink, and I'm sure the Hobonichi is similar, there's a lot of space at the bottom. And, you know, they had little mood trackers, and I was kind of doing mood trackers. And like sometimes, okay, oh, it's Earth Day, or there's like something, I'd write something, but generally speaking, I didn't really find myself using this space. So it's kind of a lot of just wasted space that the common planner with the slightly bigger grid, there's no wasted space like that. So I really like that aspect. And then the other thing with the common planner, like I said, it's got a bunch of blank pages. I believe it's about 180. Let's see. So about 1 page per day. But like I was saying, some days I'll probably use more than 1 page. Some days I'll probably use less. And the other thing that's kind of cool about the common planner is that it's got quarterly sections, which you can see I filled out this quarterly section. I didn't really find myself using them in the 2024 common planner. Yeah, see, well, I thought it was funny they had Q1 and Q2, but this was a half-year planner. But yeah, I didn't really find myself using this spread, but maybe this year I'll use it a little bit more. Just kind of a interesting feature that this planner has that not a lot of other planners have, or at least not in the Japanese kind of ecosystem with Tomoe River paper. And then it's also got a couple blank spreads at the front. One thing I do like about the dated planners, and I understand why it's not a thing in the undated, but one thing I did like about the dated, I guess it wasn't in, I guess it was just in the Jibun Techo. One thing I liked about the Jibun Techo was that it had a whole year at a glance. I didn't really use it, but I just like having like every single day of every single month in the beginning here, so I can just write a bunch of stuff down. I don't really like the year at a glance calendar view when it's just like numbers. Like, I think this one actually, that's what it had instead was, yeah, like these. I don't really like these. These do absolutely nothing for me. I don't really care what day of the week certain days are, and I feel like that's all these planners or all these kinds of spreads tell me. So the year at a glance with the Jibun Techo is really nice. And if I weren't lazy, I could, you know, do that in these entry pages here that are purposely left blank. But I'm not about that life, so I will just have to live without. So what I have done with these is in my A5 bullet journal, I had a story tracker. Now I started using the bullet journal as an addendum to my Jibun Techo in August because I was actually still using my A6 pages in my common planner that still had space. But I just had a list of stuff that I watched, that I read, kind of just keeping track of all the media. And I also had that in my Jibun Techo. They have lists. I did just kind of everything I watched or read. And then I'm like, oh, I kind of want to separate it by like anime, cartoons, books, etc. But that was kind of an afterthought. So what I'm doing with my common planner this year is I have a spread dedicated to everything I'm going to be reading and watching, and I'm going to color coordinate it. I'm also sorry for the Japanglish. I'm trying to learn Japanese. It's one of my goals. So some of my stuff here is written in English and some of it's written in kanji or Japanese. But I've got different types of media. It's books, manga, movies, anime, and television. And I'm grouping Western comics and cartoons in with anime and manga because I don't feel like differentiating. But I'm going to color coordinate, and then every time I watch or read something, I will add it to this tracker. And then here I've got a couple more trackers. So since this is just a 6-month planner, I only did 6 months for my exercise tracker, but normally I would do a whole year at a glance. And then I've got color coordinated for the different types of activities I'm doing. I've got a 100K word count goal for writing this year. It seems daunting, but then I think about it, it's like, well, if people every November can manage to write 50,000 words in 1 month, I think I can write 100,000 words in 1 year. If doing the math, if I were to write about 275 words per day, that would equal 100,000. My goal is to write about 250 to 500 words per day, which is about 1 to 2 pages. And, some days will be a little bit lighter than that. Some days will be a little bit heavier. We'll see how that goes. And then I also have a goal to watch 100 movies this year. And so this is going to be kind of one of those like thermometer trackers, when you're like trying to do a fundraising thing, you're filling up the thermometer. So it's like every time I watch a movie, I'm going to fill in a square. And then so this is like 1 by 20, 2, 3, 4, etc. This is kind of the same thing, except a little bit of a different layout. And then I've got this page over here for any other kind of yearly trackers I come up with. But for right now, that's all I've got. And then the Common Planner also has a goal breakdown. I didn't use this at all in my first one, but I thought this year, since I have some really concrete goals, I would actually use it. So I've written everything out here in pencil. I may make it nicer and fancier and, use some inks and decorations, but for now, this is what I've got. My 4 main goals this year are to become a professional screenwriter, which that is a kind of someday goal. I think I used it kind of incorrectly, but I think it's supposed to be like personal, professional, etc. But I just said what the actual goal itself was. So my goal one day is to become a professional screenwriter. So like I was saying, my goal this year is to write about 100 to 150,000 words, which a typical 90,000 or a typical 90-page screenplay, I think, is about 20 to 30,000 words. So theoretically, I'm writing a couple different feature-length scripts this year, or more likely a collection of short films or short stories and maybe 1 feature script. That's assuming I accomplish my goals. And then I also am interested in trying to up my illustration skills. I really haven't been doing art very much recently, which is kind of a bummer. So I've taken it upon myself to really try to get back into it. I'm signing up for drawing and painting classes. I actually got my first one starting this weekend, so I'm excited about that. And yeah, I just want to get in the habit of drawing more. I think drawing is a creative outlet for me that I really enjoy. And I just want to get to a point where I finish a piece and I'm like, yeah, that's decent. I could sell that, which I don't think I have felt like I've been close to in a long time. My third goal is to grow my acrobatics business, for kind of a short and sweet and condensed form. So I've been teaching yoga for the past year, and I also have been teaching trampoline and tumbling at various gyms for the past couple of years. So my goal this year is to kind of grow my brand. I have a website. I want to get more private clients. I want to teach more classes. And so I'm going to be working on YouTube and Instagram content for my brand, as well as blog posts. And this is an important goal for me. I want to get certified to become a personal trainer. My long-term goal, and actually I probably should have written this in here somewhere, is that I want to try and get a CSCS certification, which is, oh God, what's the name of the organization? CSCS is Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, and it is kind of the gold standard in strength and conditioning coaching, which is ultimately what I do. I don't really want to be a personal trainer, but I want to coach competitive trampoline and tumbling or other forms of gymnastics, and maybe even get into more specifically like strength and conditioning coaching for gymnastics. And so this is kind of my first step in getting a more specific to weightlifting and general physical preparedness training, because I am certified as a yoga instructor. I'm a gymnastics coach. I've done a couple other like kind of specialty certifications, but I think just having a really good foundation for strength training, conditioning, and physical preparedness for sports and general fitness will help me maybe someday pass the CSCS exam. I have until 2029 before they start requiring that you have to have a bachelor's in a related field. You do have to have a bachelor's degree to even apply, which I do, but my bachelor's is in English, which is not exactly exercise science or kinesiology, but so that's one of my goals. And then my last goal was a more personal one, just to kind of overhaul and reorganize my room. I've been living in this space for about 3.5 years now, and it is still just kind of a disaster in terms of organization. My biggest problem is I have a lot of stuff and I do not have a lot of storage or like vertical organization. So a lot of my stuff just kind of ends up on the floor or on tables or on my desk, and it's just not really conducive to creating, whether it's creating videos like this. My setup that I'm currently filming this on is very hodgepodge. So maybe getting an overhead mount would also be something to add to this list, but it's not conducive to creating videos. It's not conducive to writing. It's not conducive to drawing. It's not conducive to just living a happy and fulfilled life. So decluttering, reorganizing. My mom, bless her heart, she's a really talented woodworker. She's going to be making me some shelves. That'll definitely help with organizing. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. So the reason why I still have my 2025 planner sitting here is because literally I'm going to be using it for like the next week. I think, the last week in this planner goes until Sunday, January 11th. So I'm going to use that last week. I'm going to get my money's worth with this thing. And then once I finish out that week, I will start doing my weeklies in the common planner. I've already kind of penciled in the dates at the top there. And then also, I'm still using my A5 planner here. I've got, I think, about 40 pages left in this thing. Yeah, so I'm still using that while I'm using this in conjunction with it. But once I finish this will kind of take a back seat and it'll just all be here in my common planner. So a couple of supplementary notebooks I plan on using this year in addition to my common planner are this, actually not this actual one, this one is filled, but an A7 notebook for a workout journal. So I have a workout tracker, which I showed you, which is just kind of generally showing, okay, today I did cardio, today I did strength training, today I did yoga, yada, yada, yada. This, actually the gridded version of this is something I actually take with me to my strength workouts, and I track what exercises I'm doing, how much I'm lifting, how many reps, that sort of stuff, just to get kind of a longer term sense of how I'm progressing in my various strength training exercises. And yeah, it's also just fun to look at, wow, this workout was really easy, or wow, this workout sucked and I felt like I was dying, but I did it. So that's kind of fun. And then this is the Robiki Yamamoto notebook, I believe they're called. Yeah, Yamamoto paper. This is about a B7 size, so B7 is not really regulated, but you can see it's a little bit bigger than these two A7 notebooks. And I've been using the Yamamoto notebook as a kind of pocket notebook. I take it with me everywhere if I'm ever just wanting to write random stuff. As you can see, I've only just started this one. The last one I used was this Apika one, and you can see this is also about B7 size. I think B7 for pocket notebooks is kind of my perfect size because it's bigger than the A7, but it's not quite as hefty as an A6. I'm also just finding that I don't like ruled paper. So I like the paper in the Apika and in the Life notebook, but I don't like ruled paper. I'm really on that grid grind. So this, or dot grid. This is a dot grid paper. You can barely even see these dots. So sometimes it's kind of nice that they're so invisible, and sometimes I'm just like staring at it like, where are the dots? I like to write in a straight line, but I can't do that if I can't see the damn dots. So I've been using this notebook. I have like a billion pocket-sized notebooks. I'm addicted to them. It's kind of a problem. I have this Yamamoto. I had some field notes, which I kind of think field notes are overrated. I was not impressed with their paper quality, especially as it relates to fountain pens. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, they're fountain pen safe. Maybe I just have really inky fountain pens, but I did not find that they handled the ink very well. There was a lot of bleeding and feathering. And then this last one, and I actually have two of these. I have this one, and then I have, speaking of grid paper, I have a grid paper I am contemplating starting a commonplace book because I have never been somebody that has been drawn to quotes, like inspirational quotes, book quotes, whatever. I've never really cared about them very much. Sometimes I'll read something and be like, wow, that's profound, and then just kind of move on with my life. But I want to try and get in the habit of collecting quotes that I find inspirational, because when I teach yoga classes, I want to this year incorporate more meditation into my classes and just kind of talking to my students. And I feel like if I collect quotes that I can use in my little sermons, for lack of a better word, that would be really helpful. And so I think having a commonplace book for something like that could be nice. I tried putting like a section in my A5 journal that was dedicated for commonplace note quotes, but also just look at the size of this thing compared to these teeny tiny ones. But it's not the most convenient, especially because when I'm out and about, I'm not going to have my A5 journal with me. So having a pocket size notebook that I can whip out and collect some quotes, it's just nicer than typing something into your phone. That's what I end up doing most of the time, but I don't know. We'll see. I've never used an Midori MD paper before, but I have a friend who really loves these journals, so I'm really excited to try them out. And last but certainly not least, we have these two behemoths that I showed at the beginning of the video. These are both Dingbats notebooks. Dingbats, I think, is one of my favorite bullet journal brands. I really like the paper. I like that they have a variety of sizes. They have A4, well, this is technically A4 plus. Their A5 journals are also technically A5 plus, so I think they're a little bit wider than a typical A5 journal. And this is a B5, which I think is a pretty standard B5 notebook. I haven't tried a bunch of different bullet journals. I kind of want to try Archer and Olive and a couple other brands, but for the time being, Dingbats is a solid go-to notebook for me. My A4 journal here, I bought this with the intent of using it to practice Japanese. So you can see here, practicing kanji and a bunch of other stuff, and grammar. But now I just kind of use it as a catch-all journal. When I was doing my yoga teacher training, this was what I was taking my notes in. That's what all this stuff is right here. And then I also sometimes use it for planning out schedules and stuff, or the private lessons and yoga classes, and just diagrams in general are what I tend to use this for. So here I have some diagrams of, just random stuff. So this is just kind of, if I want to sketch something big and my A5 journal is not quite big enough in scope to capture what I want to sketch out, this is kind of my go-to, as well as just kind of writing big general ideas. And then this B5 journal, this is the Dingbats Pro, so it's got 2 bookmarks, which is my one beef with Dingbats, is that most of them only have, or I should say that their wildlife collection, they only have 1 bookmark, whereas the Earth collection has 2. I'm kind of unsure whether I like the Earth collection or the wildlife collection better. I do like having more than 1 bookmark though, which is also my beef with Common Planner, or in Hobonichi and most other planners, because they don't have built-in bookmarks, but I digress. The Dingbats Pro is B5, and it's got a different paper, so it has a thicker, whiter paper. So the Dingbats, they're kind of a cream or ivory, whereas the Pro is pretty white. And I believe these are 120 GSM. It's heavier than their regular paper. Not quite as beefy as like Scribbles That Matter, Archer and Olive, I don't believe, but it's up there. It's, kind of designed to be more for watercolor and art journaling and all that stuff. As you can see here, and I don't know what past me was thinking, I bought this in a lined rule. And I'm like, why the hell did I buy lined paper? I think it's because I had my A5, A4, and also the A6 bullet journals already in dot grid. And I believe this one only comes in blank, lined, or dot grid. I don't think it has graph paper, which is actually kind of my favorite ruling, I think. But I was like, I already have 3 of these things with dot grid. I want to try lined paper, and I don't like it. I don't like lined paper. It's too big. I believe it's 7mm rule, and kind of the opposite problem of what I was experiencing with the Jibun Techo, which has such a tiny rule. I have to use very specific pens. This is such a large rule, I have to use very specific pens. I don't have a lot of 0.7mm or larger pens, and that tends to be what looks best. This is a, I believe, Uniball 7mm Vision Elite, and it also, I feel like it's a little bit too textured for fountain pen paper. I mean, this is all fountain pen right here, so clearly I didn't like destroy my fountain pens writing in this, but every time I write in it, especially if I'm writing for a longer period of time, I just feel like I think I'm getting pulp into the nib of my pen, and I don't like that, and I don't want to be cleaning out the tines, so I haven't used this one. But this one, my idea with it was that it would be a composition notebook, which, you know, B5 size, that's kind of the typical composition notebook size. But at this point, I've just tried to finish it. I got like, you know, this many pages left, so I'm just trying to finish it. And then when I finish it, it will be retired, and maybe I'll get another one someday that is a different rule, but yeah, I'm just trying to finish this. So to kind of recap generally what I'm going to be doing this year, once I finish my Jibun Techo, I'm going to take all of my daily, monthly, weekly planning into my common planner here in the B6 size. And then I'm going to be using a couple different pocket notebooks for workout trackers, general notes, and random musings, and then potentially a dedicated commonplace book for quotes. And I've got a couple different bigger notebooks if I ever need more space to breathe, or if I just want to write down or draw stuff that needs a little bit more space than this B6 one, or if I want to write on fountain pen friendly paper that is a little bit thicker and doesn't take 50 million years to dry. No offense, Tomoe. I hope this video is interesting to you guys. One of my goals this year that I didn't write down in the beginning of the common planner, I think just because I want to limit the amount of stuff I put on myself this year, is to make more YouTube videos. I'm still trying to figure out what niche I want to do videos in. I want to do video essays, I think, primarily, but I'm also interested in lifestyle stuff as well. So who knows where the new year will take me, but I'll definitely be making YouTube videos for my business, which I will link that YouTube channel in the description and on my other socials once that is up. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!